John McCain has provided honorable service to our country. But when it comes to his economic policies, he is promising and proposing the same things we've been doing for the last 8 years. Now, just give you an example. His tax policies. John McCain wants to continue the policies in which companies that ship jobs overseas are still getting tax breaks from the United States government. I mean, you've got companies like ExxonMobil that have made record profits, that have been able to park $56 billion worth of profits offshore, not pay taxes on them, and not create jobs here in the United States of America. Now, I don't know about you, but it strikes me that Mark is absolutely right. We live in a global economy. We can't always stop companies from moving, but we sure as heck don't have to give them incentives to move. We don't have to give them tax breaks to move. We should give companies tax breaks that are investing right here in Martinsville and right here in Henry County. That makes sense to me. John McCain he does want to provide some additional tax breaks, but you know what? They're going to corporations $300 billion worth, to folks who don't need them and weren't even asking for tax breaks. And what I want to do instead is to provide tax breaks to working families who are struggling to make the budget. So I want to say to every family, each of you get $1,000 per family per year to offset rising costs of fuel, rising costs of food. Lower your tax burden. I want to provide tax relief to homeowners who don't have big mansions and so they're not itemizing on their tax returns, but you deserve a deduction on your mortgage interest rate just like the folks who own the big homes do. I want to say to senior citizens, if you're making $50,000 a year or less, you don't have to pay taxes on your Social Security because you're already having a tough time making ends meet. Having a tax code that is fair and that is helping middle-class families, that's part of the choice that we have at stake in this election. We need a policy to create jobs here in America. So not only do we need to change our tax incentives, but we've also got to invest in people and our infrastructure right here in the United States of America. I have said already that at a time when Iraq has a $79 billion surplus, they have parked it in banks in New York City. It doesn't make too much sense for us to be still spending U.S. taxpayer dollars $10 billion a month rebuilding Baghdad. We should use some of that money to rebuild Virginia, building roads and laying broadband lines and putting people back to work. If we create world-class infrastructure, we create jobs now, but we also create the competitive platform for the future. Energy. Mark Warner mentioned. We have been doing the same thing with energy for 30 years now. We talk about it a lot. We say we want to create energy independence, but we do the same thing over and over again because the oil companies and the gas companies, they are sitting in those committees. The special interests in Washington are dictating our policies. And we've got to wrestle Washington back and say, let's have an energy policy that is going to be good for our national security, good for our environment, and good for our economy. And that's why I've said we're going to propose $15 billion a year that we are investing right here in the United States in solar and wind and biodiesel so that some of these old plants that have shut down, they're going to be reopened building wind turbines and building solar panels. And in rural communities, old tobacco farms we can convert, creating switchgrass that's being used for high-energy fuel. That's the vision of the future that we have to create. And we have to increase, by the way, domestic production. And I have no problem. Let me be clear about this. I think it is smart for us to explore, are there ways that we can tap into the oil reserves here in the United States, but understand our oil reserves amount to 3% of the world's oil reserves. We consume 25% of the world's oil. So even if we are increasing some production here, we are still going to have a big gap that we have to close. And why not create millions of new, well-paying union jobs right here in the United States in that energy sector? Let's not wait for somebody else to make the energy-efficient cars of the future. Let's make them right here in the United States of America. That's what we're fighting for. Let's make our healthcare system work for every American. Mark talked about its burden on business. Let's talk about the burden on families. If you have health insurance right now, you've seen your premiums, your co-payments, your deductibles going up and up and up. And obviously, you got 47 million people who don't have health insurance whatsoever. Now, we have to do something about that. And so what I've said is, if you've got health insurance, I'm going to work with your employer to lower your costs. If you don't have health insurance, you will be able to buy health insurance that is the same as the health insurance I have as a member of Congress. We're going to emphasize prevention so that people are getting regular screenings and regular checkups. We don't want to send people to the emergency room for treatable illnesses because it ends up costing all of us more money. And we're not going to wait 20 years from now to do it or 10 years from now to do it. We're going to do it by the end of my first term as President of the United States of America. We are going to make this healthcare system work for all people.